Hi everyone, I'm Peter Denton. I teach ethics and sustainability at Red River College in Winnipeg, Canada, and I'm also Associate Professor of History at the Royal Military College of Canada, where I teach courses in technology, warfare and society, and on religion and war. And today what I want to talk to you about is sustainability, ethics and war. I'm trying to pull together the things that I do in different parts of my life and find a way of demonstrating to you that these issues are important to consider together. So sustainability, ethics and war. It's a grim title, but the reason for it is that if we cannot solve the problems around conflict in the 21st century, if we can't find a way out of resolving our differences by means of warfare, of whatever kind or description, then all of the things that we are trying to do with respect to sustainability simply won't matter. It's the touchstone of whether or not sustainability is going to be something that will happen or whether it's going to be something that will drift off into the regions of we want something to happen but it can't. So sustainability, ethics and war focuses, the fulcrum in the middle there is ethics, the kinds of choices that we make. So what I want to do in this presentation, and I want to thank Common Ground for giving us the opportunity to extend the conversation beyond people who were in the room that day. What I want to do is to show you something of what I think the larger picture looks like, to give you some suggestions about where we might want to go, and finally some conclusions about the sorts of things that you and I can do differently to make a difference toward choosing for a sustainable future. What I want to begin with is an iconic moment in history, something that we're celebrating a 100th anniversary of in a very short few weeks. On April 15th, 1912, the Titanic sank. Now, what's important about this, what makes it an icon of life in the 21st century, is the fact that the Titanic was unsinkable. This was the pinnacle of human ingenuity, this was the pinnacle of human engineering, this was our statement about our place in the universe, and it lasted 2 weeks. There's something about saying unsinkable that, to my mind, annoys the gods, for lack of a better term. It irritates the powers that are out there that somehow we think we have the ability to overtake the world and to do the things that we want to do. Now, the problem, of course, is that it sank. It was viewed as a monumental achievement. It was something that would last forever, that was measured against the pyramids, it was measured against the other types of engineering marvels of the human race. It lasted 2 weeks. Over 2,000 people and 20 lifeboats. And the stories out of the Titanic showed the sacrifices that people made, the people who were saved, those who weren't. We still think about the drama in terms of a Hollywood movie, and the moment is preserved for posterity in the various displays and exhibits of artifacts that have been dredged up from the Titanic. But I want to take that moment, that icon in the 20th century, and I want to expand it because the same issues confront us in another context. Planet Earth, 7 billion people, no lifeboats. The reason why we have to solve the issue around technology and warfare is quite simply because there is no escape. There is no way off. There is no way, because we are better or richer or live in a nicer spot or are dealing with less immediate problems than someone else somewhere else, there's no way we're going to escape the same outcome as the people on the other side of the world who live in different circumstances than we do. So 7 billion people, no lifeboats. Same problem, our attitude and how we understand ourselves. We didn't create the hoodoos of Alberta. We didn't shape the east coast of Canada. We didn't carve Kaieteur Falls out of the wilds of the Guyana rainforest. But somehow we feel compelled to see ourselves as the most important thing in any picture, to put some evidence that we were there. We can't recreate the flower. We don't know why the moth has spots on its wings. We know a little bit about the birds, not nearly enough about the bees or the gnarl of the oak trees. And we stand silent and marvel at the sunset. But somehow we think that our perspective is the one that really matters, that we can capture in a snapshot the magnificent scenery that constitutes the earth on which we live. And so what's most important is our shadow on the sand, our feet where they stand, our footprints. And so we drop oil rigs into the prairies. We drop industry into the heart of the mountains. We improve scenic views with fiberglass arrayed tourist attractions. We thoughtfully provide overpasses for the animals who live where we want to travel through. It's pretty easy to conclude that somehow this has to change. Something literally has to stop. Because if it doesn't, are we really looking at the sunset of the human race? And is all our frenzy, including our frenzy around sustainability, really nothing but the death throes of yet another species writhing to the last sunshine? These are serious questions, and they're not new ones. 80 years ago, a fellow by the name of Raymond Fosdick wrote a book called The Old Savage and the New Civilization. And it was a collection of commencement addresses that Fosdick had given to college audiences across the country in the United States. His point was very simple, that moral development, human moral development, had not kept pace with technological development. We were still the same old savage, but we were living in a brand new civilization created by our tools and our technologies. And the consequence of living in that brand new civilization is that we now have far more opportunity to create the kind of devastation that will literally end life on the planet as we know it. He said this in 1928. Within a year, we were facing, as a society, we were facing the Great Depression, and then the rise of fascism, the Second War, and the use of weapons of mass destruction greater than the world had ever seen before. So he was onto something. And here we are 80 years later, facing the same issues further down the road and no closer to a resolution. For Fosdick, we were a really dangerous old savage. We were able to use these kinds of things to exterminate these. And so in looking at our civilization, as you can see from the slide of the contents of the book, he was looking at the problems that are relating to how we drive this ship, the old savage at the helm of the earth, in the same way as there were people at the helm of the Titanic. What's needed is an Aristotle. What's needed is a synthesis of all of the points of view that allow us to move into a new era in international relations that enables us to find a better way. And that better way is grounded not necessarily in our science and technology. In fact, it's not likely to be grounded in our science and technology. It's grounded in developing and changing who we are and how we live together. David Suzuki, the Canadian environmentalist, in 2009 wrote an article in a book that's noted there on the screen that identifies this as the problem that he now sees as well. Having spent his whole life working in terms of the environmental movement and creating environmental awareness, he realized that the real issue here, after 10 years of essentially going nowhere except further down the wrong track, that the crucial issue is one about science, not about science and technology, it's about culture and society. We have all the tools we need, we're simply not using them. And so what I want to offer here to you as a suggestion of what we could look at in terms of places to travel, reflections for the journey, development for the old savage, is a series of 7 lessons. So 7 reflections for the journey, 7 lessons the old savage needs to learn. The first one is that technology is in our heads, not in our hands. We live in a world of our own choosing. It's not about being out of control. We are entirely in control. We make the choices. We make the decisions. If we don't like what we see, if we are headed in the wrong direction, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to choose differently. Secondly, everything relates. Only some things connect. We live in a universe of relations, not an environment of connections. In other words, despite the extent to which the mechanical metaphor has taken over our lives and has dominated our thoughts, our words, and how we live together, we don't live in a network. We don't live in a universe of connections, but one of relations, where we're not just talking about mechanical things. We're talking about everything from the spiritual side of our existence to what's important in terms of values to our relationships with other people and other living things. And in part, this is because we live in two universes simultaneously, the metrical and the non-metrical, the universe of things that can be counted and numbered and the universe of things that can't. The trick is that everything of value is in the non-metrical universe. So while we use language that involves numbers and counting and measuring, that's not who we are, that's not a sustainable future. We need to find other language, other words, to make sure that the non-metrical universe, that side of our personality and our society, is given a voice. So sustainability requires us to revision the earth not just as common ground, but as sacred space. It's at least as much a spiritual struggle as it is a material one. Moreover, a life is a life, however and wherever it is lived. There's no hierarchy of value inherent in life. We sometimes think that there is, that it matters where you live, who you are, how much money you have. But from the perspective of life itself, all life is equal. And in a system that values all life as equal, that realizes that all life is related, it doesn't even matter if we're human or non-human. We're very much a part of the same system, and the relations affect all of us. Our lives unfold in a trajectory in time and space, but their meaning is found in story. We are all both authors and characters. Even minor characters can change any story, and do. This is really crucial, because what it means is that you matter, I matter. Everybody we know matters. Even people that we barely meet matter some way in the story that's unfolding on the earth. And if we don't recognize that involvement, that engagement, the ways in which people of all kinds and places make a difference, then we are missing what is really going on around us. For a sustainable future, we need to understand life and our relations with other people, not in terms of economy or exchange, but instead as gift. Not in expectation of any return, without calculation of cost, but instead as a celebration of presence with another person. And in that moment of presence, the universe changes in the way all of us need it to change. As the rising tides wash away the world we know, we need to find other ways to be human, to be in relation with each other, to take off the rough edges we can no longer afford before the sun sets on a planet no longer our home. Thank you for your time.